On the record? That's correct. Back on the record, one of the Nevada Taxicab Authority Board, this is the time and set by trailing calendar for a workshop on regulations. The date is June 17th, 2026. We're in the Nevada Business Center, 230 West Sahara Avenue, Suite 400, Las Vegas, Nevada. The record should reflect that we had a forum, Decker, weekly Vice Chair Graff, and myself, Dan Reeser, member Vasquez, who used for the purposes of this proceeding. I would like to ask Member Decker to lead us pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Having reviewed notification and confirmations of posting, it appears to me that this matter has been properly noticed and posted in accordance with the open meeting. First substantive agenda item is to take public comment. This matters on our agenda to NRS 241 for the purposes of taking comment from the public on matters in our jurisdiction. We may not take action on those matters today. We do welcome comments from the public on issues that they think we should be aware of in the administration, Chapter 706 of the NRS and NAC. Is there any member of the public present who would like to give us public comment in the room? Seeing none, is there anybody remotely participating? Yeah, I will close our public comment session. That will take us to agenda item 3. Before us are two sets, if I have this correct, of regulations for consideration. We have previously workshopped both of them. The first is a document of, I believe, it's 49 pages, 53 sections in LCD file number R/006-25. These have been workshop, and we previously held a hearing where there were suggested amendments that were made. Amendments have been made on the document, and I would open up LCD file number R/006-25 for any comments from the public or the industry relative to the adoption of these regulations. They will be adopted as temporary regulations because we are outside the witching hour, and so it will be amendment of temporary. It's amendment of temporary regulations with new temporary regulations. But I will open it up for any member of the public who wishes to comment on the draft R/006-25. Meaning nobody who wishes to make comment. Is there any comments from staff that we should be aware of?
Not for me.
This file. Ms.
No,
Webb?
just simply that the DAG had said perhaps the change at the bottom of page 13, section 13, by adding at least 5 calendar days could be considered substantial. So I just,
In which case the LCD will tell us that we can't make that change. And I will actually disagree that the setting of a time period for something to happen that you had already said to happen is anything other than clarifying potential ambiguity. That's why there are horse races. Bringing it back to the board. You have a process. My view is that we will take motions at the end of everything after we've talked about small business impact statement on these. So we won't, I'm not asking for a motion yet at this point. I'm just bringing it back to the board if there's any changes or additions or correction.
Right, I don't think we're taking any,
Pardon?
I don't, it's any workshops, I don't think we're really taking.
So the next process will be at a future meeting, we'll do an adoption. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
30 days.
okay. So, we don't have to take any action. Okay, and we can't actually, what you're saying. Okay, good to know. So with that, bring it back to the board.
I have a question, just real quick, on page 16.
1616.
So it says, except as may be otherwise provided by an order of the presiding officer or authority, information, which is blah, blah, blah. And then administrator was also changed out. Are those items what we had
Discussed last.
in
time.
there? That's all. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So this is what we discussed. This is the changes. Okay. So, yep, that was it. Want to make sure that wasn't. Because I thought we had already done that. That's fine.
Everything's from February.
That review.
I do not.
Then I will close the workshop on file LCD number R00625. And open up workshop on proposed amendments to chapter 76 related to the draft February 18, 2026. This is the attempt at regulations that would, as we discussed during the regular meeting this morning, place the pilot program and put in place a set of regulations to allow use of the 3P system with TNCs. Is what you made some changes to the February 18 draft, which are shown in red. Is that correct?
Green, yeah. Yeah, the new is green.
On this draft that we have, the red,
The green is scratched out. I know it's
This.
no, that's. Oh. Great, this is the one you emailed. It's now in green. I see. Okay, great.
It
Thanks.
really depends what computer we email you from and see if
Okay.
it make a difference.
I get it. Okay. My apologies. It, so red is strikeout and green is new.
Yes.
And can you just help us understand where these changes came from?
Most of them came from, Herb had made some suggestions during the meeting. And I went through and did my best at adding some. And I'm hoping they're here today to help some more. And other than that, the few up front were suggestions at the board.
So we'll open up the workshop on this draft. Be happy to take comments from any member of the public on the proposed changes to the draft of February 18.
Good morning,
Morning.
Matthew Revelos with Curve Mobility. I reviewed the documents. I only have 3 points of concern. One of them, the first one is probably just, I just want to make sure that in section 3, line 1 is,
Section 3, the first sentence.
yes.
Okay.
That that we all understand it to mean the same thing.
Is
Wait.
that 3 subsection 1, a certificate holder may enter an agreement? Is that we're looking at?
Correct, correct. So I think the intention of that sentence, line 1, is that the certificate holder is essentially required to have an agreement in place with the vendor, which is the third, which is the taxi technology vendor, that has its own agreement with the transportation network company. So you see the 3 points there, right? Taxi company, taxi technology company, and then the third party with the, so I just want to make sure that we all understand that to mean the same thing.
You speak the language, can you read it the way?
Sure. You want to,
So I have the same question on this section because it seems to me that that's not what's contemplated here because the second sentence says every agreement by and between the certificate holder and the and TNC.
right,
I understood from the first workshop that there is no such agreement. There's an agreement, certificate holder to technology company, and then there's an agreement technology company to TNC. Am I understanding that correct?
that's the model that I'm aware of.
That's
Yeah,
3P model.
that's a 3P model.
This section, so line 1 should really read, the technology company of a certificate holder may enter an agreement for access.
No,
right?
or a certificate holder may enter an agreement for access to the hailing system and enter an agreement with a technology provider for access. Which I think then means we probably need a definition of technology. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the essence of it, yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, I mean, Mr. Administrator, you would know way more than me. I can't remember if there's any definition already in the regulations for the taxi technology provider. I know we've had to work through the fleets, but I don't know if there's a definition. And,
Saying, hang on. Are you saying
Unit 7. I will see this covered.
this is talking about the functionality of the system? So I think we have to have.
Saves that.
Yes.
My question was, did
Do we need it?
the section 2, paragraphs 1A, did that definition provide the information that Chair Reeser was asking about? He had said no.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
And I agree with him. I
Yeah.
think that we do need a neutral definition of technology.
And
and see, and to be just perfectly fair, I mean, Z-Trip, I don't think is represented here right now, but I don't know if they have an arrangement with Uber, for example, that goes through their technology company, or it's their technology company that has the arrangement with Uber. So I don't want to, speak for someone else, but all the arrangements that I'm aware of, the Uber has the arrangement with the technology company.
and the administrator has told us when he approved the pilots, that was the methodology. Is that correct?
Correct. I wanted a 3P system. Not a 1P
Yeah.
system.
Well, sure, sorry to complicate that, but it goes along with what you're saying under section 8, number 4.
Section 8.
Section 8, sub 4 on page 5. Sub 4 says that the certificate holder will file copy of the corresponding rate information used by TNC with the NTA. How will the certificate holder have that?
I think. we'll
I
get
had
to
that on my list.
You do, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had
think
it,
we're
it's
gonna-
coming.
But
Yeah.
it goes along with if they're going through a third-party technology vendor, certificate holder doesn't have access to any of it.
I do have a recommendation for the language there, but I think
But
you guys want me to wait till we get to that
Yeah.
item.
Yeah, let's do this section. I think on 3, so the change would be a certificate holder may enter an agreement with a technology company or technology provider. I think technology provider would be my preference for access to the system. Every agreement by and between a technology company and the TNC must have these elements in it. Are you, or did you have changes to that?
I'm thinking maybe it's specified Taxicab technology company, so it's not just some random technology company.
No,
Oh, what?
I'm going to suggest we come back to the definition of technology
Okay.
provider in a moment.
Okay,
Is there anything else in subsection 3 other than the definition that you had changes?
well, that's that second sentence of section 3, number 1. Every agreement by and between a certificate holder and a transportation
Yeah,
network
it would be
company.
now by and between a technology provider. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm on the same page with you on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else in section 3?
The number of taxi cabs, I mean, in A, subsection A there, number of taxi cabs that will be equipped with access to the electronic ride-hailing system of a transportation network company. So is of a the right? How would that be? I mean, I know what it means, but how would that be defined to someone who's a casual observer, for example?
How would what?
So
I'm looking at A.
identify the number of taxi cabs that will be equipped with access to the electronic ride-hailing system of a transportation network company.
Are you saying what is a transportation network company?
No, when it says ride-hailing system of a, does that, I mean, you know better than me because you are the one with the legal opinion. To me, I don't wonder, like, would a lay person determine that means a ride-hailing system of a transportation as though it's possessed by the transportation network company?
Yes,
Yes.
because is not the hailing system one that's used by the TNC? Or are you saying? I'm not understanding the point.
Well, so the taxi cabs will be equipped with access to the electronic ride-hailing system. But the TNC doesn't possess the ride-hailing system. It's an independent entity contracting with the taxi cab. So of a to me suggests possession.
Okay, so you're saying used by or available to? Is that what you're?
Yeah, available to. Sorry,
No,
I'm not gonna go like this through the whole document. Don't worry. Is this comma in the right place? I think that was it for me though on section 3.
Ms. Webb, do you get that?
I did get that. Just surprised there aren't more in 3. 'Cause I didn't.
There- Yeah.
So anything else in section 3? If you want to speak, you need to come up here. Make an appearance.
Thank you,
So
Mr.
we
Chair.
comply with the statute.
Cheryl Gibbons for Desert Cabin Virgin Valley. I was unclear if we were doing this individually to go through the entire document or if we're all going to speak on each section as it comes up.
I prefer the latter.
Yeah, I prefer the latter, not if
So
somebody,
everybody-
yeah, if he's presenting an issue on a section and other people want to talk about that section, then let's all talk about that section, not go back and
Back and forth.
17 times. Yeah.
On section 3, I respectfully disagree that the certificate holder will be entering into or may enter into an agreement with a technology provider, for instance, Kerber Captain. I believe that the right for the certificate holder to also enter into that agreement directly with the transportation network company should be allowed. So I don't believe that we should be forced into having an agreement with a technology provider such as Curb or Captain. If the opportunity in the future presents itself for us to deal directly with transportation network company, we should not be forced to enter into a separate agreement.
The pilots have all been performed on the basis of a 3P system.
Yes.
You're saying you don't want to.
I'm just saying I don't want to box us into
You don't
that.
want to be what's in the rule.
I just don't want the carriers to be boxed into being forced into having a three-way relationship when, if in the future it presents itself that Uber or Lyft may come to the companies and say, look, we're going to provide you with the tech to make this happen. You don't need to pay another party. Then I think that we at least should be able to explore that opportunity.
Cheryl, I see that as an argument as to what the definition of technology provider should be. I don't see that as trying to change the structure from a three-way, because
So
Uber may be both the TNC and
the technology,
the technology.
as long as that's going to be in the record, then I have no problem with that.
Well, we have
because I like the way you're
defined
thinking.
technology provider yet, but we'll say that to start now, well, I think it's pretty clear through the pilot program that we've said that a one-piece scheme is not what we're going to test, nor do, and we're only going to test what it is that we want to deploy.
Yes.
And the administrator has been totally unambiguous about his viewpoint on this, and and the board certainly could do something different, but I think, at least as one member of the board, I have consumed that. So I'm open to some flexibility on who the technology provider is, but not on the fact that there's going to be two forms of contract here.
Can we, for the record, can the administrator restate his position? Because I don't particularly remember.
Okay, sure. Yeah, sure.
Yes, my position is a 3P system, not a 1P system. I think you need to have that middle ground. And that also goes back to the way the statute reads of where a taxi driver cannot be a TNC driver. So if you have that center piece, that's where we're at right now.
Gotcha.
So that
I
is
think there's two reasons. I think there's a technical reason and there's a legal.
Right. The legal reason is compelling
Yeah, I
So-
think the legal reason is compelling.
without changing the statute to, yeah.
That's, I think, the problem with going down Carol's.
So we might not really have a choice in that if we want to accomplish this regulation.
Now we really.
No.
Don't lose that, because that's where all the info is, right?
Just one
comment.
Name.
John Griffin, on behalf of Uber. There is a current pilot program running up north that is one,
We understand.
right? So I don't know if we have a preference one way or the other. Clearly, a bill needs to be run next session to beef up the statute, but you're entirely good, Paul. What?
Well, that's a NTA pilot program since they have jurisdiction, and so
That's right. Eric, just for-
they are governed by a different section of 706.
Huh?
Really, twin sister of this.
But good, no, yeah, stay, because you're probably gonna, unless you don't want to, unless you want to run and hide, John. Okay. Other changes in section 3.
I didn't notice, I didn't notice any. Or just. Yeah,
So
those are the ones I made note of.
we need a little guidance from Ms. Webb on what we're gonna call a technology provider. Seems to me it is a person that provides. Huh?
Person.
A person. Yeah, person is defined in 0.039 as natural person and or a legal entity that is not a government. So a person who that provides to a certificate holder. And then I guess, what is it that they provide to the certificate holders? That's in the contracts that you've reviewed. They provide access. We're gonna have to define
Is
this.
this still considered a dispatch system?
Are they providing the ride hailing system,
It's the dispatch service.
dispatch service?
Yeah,
Um,
I'm not hung up on that language. There may be better language out there than dispatch service.
I mean, it's a dispatch, I mean, our official is dispatch solution and ride hailing system because the Curb app is ride hailing. Uber is just one of the ride hails that comes through to Curb drivers. There's the actual taxi app Curb. There's potentially other third parties. So we just refer to it as a ride hailing system.
we've defined electronic ride hailing system. So they are technologies providers, the person who by contract provides the electronic ride hailing system to a certificate.
Typically dispatch and ride hailing go together because you're kind of really trying to source the same inventory. So
But I think if you look at page 1, section 2.1, the definition of electronic ride hailing system, we have dispatch as one of the functionalities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what,
Facilitates.
and it would make just that simple. Person that provides to.
the ride hailing systems, digital.
So the only problem I think we may have created is where you've now defined a electronic ride hailing system as perhaps only that which integrates with the TNC. I think it,
Because the,
which it may, but doesn't necessarily have to be the only method.
because essentially Uber is an electronic ride hailing system by nature, right? I mean, that's what it does. It's a,
No, Uber's technology is, Uber is a company that does all kinds of things.
yeah, well, so is Curb, but we're not Uber, but yeah.
Employs drivers.
No, but it's,
buys or doesn't buy insurance, complies with statutes.
True.
You know. So I don't want to try to define that TNC as some narrow thing that's only related to the trans.
I'm just asking the question. Yeah.
Huh?
Is there a definition in the NTA, Greg's?
For what?
Both of those issues, technology provider and or ride hailing system. Is that something we need to look at?
We crafted these definitions. So we're,
Okay.
John Griffin again,
Yeah.
is another jurisdiction, because we use Uber uses the 3P system in other jurisdictions. Do they define the middleman, for lack of a better word? Any other jurisdiction, can we look there?
it's a good point.
I can ask them. We'll have someone on in 4 minutes that will actually know the answer.
Yeah. Good point. So Lana, did you understand that last point? You're not listening.
I heard 4 minutes, we're gonna have like a little rescue, that's what I heard.
I will at least. The 3P system, Uber uses that in other jurisdictions, and I'm wondering what the other jurisdictions might call the
Heard
middleman.
Heard that, yes.
So we may be able to find a definition from another jurisdiction.
San Francisco.
Yeah.
We're calling a friend.
Well, we're not going to resolve it today. We just know that we need a definition, technology provider.
So Curtis just handed me this company or entity that develops, owns, maintains, or supplies technology.
Well, but that needs to be technology to do X.
Yes.
Just like
Because elsewise, Curtis has done what we call in legislative parlance, a circular definition.
My thing was just mouth that administrative tax authority. Instead of provider platform, maybe technology platform may be a better description to use.
A thing instead of a person.
Yeah, because we need that to get that 3P. We got to have that thing in between there that doesn't
We may
allow
need,
them.
then, good point. We may need a definition of the thing, and we may need a definition of the person who provides the thing. Because that person who provides that thing is going to have to be in privity of contract with the technology, the TNC.
And everything that we do is on the certificate.
Okay. Huh? Anything else in section 3? So one of the big facts is the definition of technology provider and the changes. Before we move on to section 4, were there any comments on section 2 on the definition of electronic ride-hailing system?
I mean, just saying the obvious, I guess, this as long as it can take, the same language continues through, which is obvious, like just saying it, just say it.
Okay, your next comment?
I didn't have anything on 4, so if anyone else,
Is there anybody who wants to talk about 4?
I do.
Okay.
Cheryl Gibbons for Desert Cabin Virgin Valley. Section 4 states it is a violation of this chapter for any driver of any taxi cab owned by a certificate holder. Continuation. 706-88499 currently allows for an independent contractor to operate as a TMC. So, and I'm not an attorney, but I've always been taught that the NRS has overruled the NACs, and it appears that we're trying to write an NAC that is going to prohibit not only employee drivers, but independent contractor drivers from this, and under the current statute, an independent contractor can already operate in a 1P environment with Uber or Lyft.
Would it solve it to say any employee driver?
Well,
That would,
I thought driver was a defined term as an employee. That's my recollection.
in a lot of the NHDs, it references independent contractor and driver. So, and yet this particular NRS references it as an employee certificate holder. So I like the idea of having it be employee driver. I just thought that would be clearer, but
Driver is a defined term as an individual who operates a taxi cab and includes the certificate holder. When the certificate holder operates a taxi cab, that's probably in there just for. Because he still drives his cabs. But he's not listening.
Right.
But
he's not the certificate holder.
that's true.
Isn't that resolved with the phrase while operating?
Yeah, I think that to this comment, I think we need to take it back and see if the reason we selected driver was because the NAC has driver defined as being an employee and independent contractor is used for leases. What I don't want to do is create a new term that conflicts, but I get what you're saying.
yeah, it was even more confusing because 706A point oh four, which is the
706.
TNC one.
Oh, I don't care about.
Yeah,
706.
those define a driver as a person who owns, leases, or otherwise operates. So,
We don't,
you know,
706A is part of this scheme, so.
What if we just say employee? Just employee.
That's what she's suggesting. We just
Yeah,
put
I think-
employee driver.
yeah.
No, just employee.
It may be just employee.
Yeah.
So that's, we have to look at this and make sure that we define it in a way that doesn't create the need to define something else or fits in with definitions we already have.
Or something we've changed in the other.
That's correct. Because we made some changes in that space,
Previous.
on file 00625. Okay. Okay. Nothing else on 4. Okay. Number 5.
Number 5. For me, it's, line 2, it's 5, and then section 1, or section 5.1.2, technically, the second sentence on the next page. Allows the driver to concurrently evaluate the respective rate, charges, and fares that the passenger will incur as approved by the authority. That's part of the same one, Commissioner Decker, you noticed the same language you noticed in section 8. The driver can't see what the passengers.
Yeah, I understand this to be an impossibility.
Yeah,
That the driver has to just kind of know intuitively what the fare would be.
I'm supposing that the intention of this is that the driver will be able to see what the fare offered to the driver will.
I think the purpose of this section is to allow this to provide a process by which the driver can make a informed election that he's leaving money on the table by taking the Uber ride or by taking the cab. And my general understanding PNCs is, and from the technology providers, no mechanism to provide.
Yes, an Uber, John Griffin again, Uber submitted some
Right.
comments earlier.
Right.
And she should be on here shortly, but, with dynamic pricing, we can project what the ride's gonna be, but different route,
Right.
stop in the middle, it's not guaranteed that that's end fair.
And certainly not necessarily capable of the current taximeter is not capable of telling you in advance what the fare is going to be. I mean, it clocks it, tells you at the end. So,
But in general, you get a decent idea. It's like, well, I can guess that this is gonna be with fare, it's this, and with the dynamic pricing on or off or whatever, it's that.
I think
You can get a closely educated guess, but it's not gonna be exact on either side.
and in this instance, we're trying to do something. Well, this isn't a consumer protection issue. This is a driver selection issue. I'm not sure. Mr. Fager will need to tell me. I'm not sure we need to somehow protect the driver from making. I mean, the driver can make whatever decision she wants to. You don't necessarily need to
Regulate it.
regulate that decision-making process because they may decide, I'm going to do 4 Ubers in the amount of time that I could do 1 taxi.
But this one is this one's saying that he has to be able to see what his fare is gonna be up front. I mean, this is the one specifically saying he gets to choose to take that ride or not based on what money he's collecting. So without this, we could say, hey, do you want this ride without telling him what the fare is, what his
No.
piece of it.
I think, to your point, the problem with the regulation isn't that the driver won't be presented what he'll make with Uber. He doesn't have in real time what he's giving up if he were to go on a meter.
Right. Well, that's true.
So I think this section doesn't go away. It just says that he has to be given the information by the TNC to know what it is he would earn. What the rate, the general fare would be, which they already do for their drivers. But we wouldn't be trying to capture, and if you took the fare under the tariff, this is what you would make. This requires that both of those pieces of data be presented to him. It's not possible to give him the meter, what's going to be on the tariff.
Right. Well, the tariff's crossed out.
But it says, and facilitates the driver accepting or declining. You're thinking that this already does what I'm saying it should.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think without this, the driver could get a ride hail that doesn't tell him how much he's gonna make, how much the ride's gonna cost, and that we need to say to the TNC, you got to tell them what the fare's gonna be before you decide. Otherwise, how do you decide?
Okay, so perhaps this is already just by the striking of under this standard tariff.
And before you move on,
Well,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
but what says the passenger will incur? The passenger has nothing to do with this.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it just needs to say what the driver will be compensated. And it already shows that. It already tells a driver what he's going to be compensated.
Right. But to your point, the passenger will incur
The passenger is going to incur whatever's on their app.
Yeah.
That's between the passenger
That's right.
and the TNCs. The driver is going to be paid what appears on his meter.
And I would even just include in that, just for clarity, that doesn't even necessarily mean that the passenger is actually paying more, because, for example, I get a lot of free Uber rides. or discounted rides. So
Well, the
I'm out.
Hey, hi. I just want to flag I'm Shatakshi from Uber. So if there's any questions, I'm gonna go on mute. But if there's any questions, please send them my way.
lucked out on that one.
Go ahead. But, yeah,
Well, I was just saying, just for clarification, it depends, it's assumed that the passenger is paying more than what the driver's getting paid, but that's not always the case.
yeah,
Well,
but I don't-
But this is.
this
describing
section
what
two
they
is,
get.
I'm just,
has nothing, really is not a passenger protection provision.
no, exactly. No, what I'm sort of just for because it says that the driver suggests that the driver would be able to see what the passenger is paying.
Right.
And just to make that conversation maybe a little cleaner around that whole topic of what the passenger pays, it's assumed typically by cab drivers, especially that the passenger is paying more, correct? But that's not always the case.
Well, why don't you just strike all of that, the respective rate charges and fares that the passenger will incur and put in, evaluate the compensation offered by the.
Yeah, I think that's right. Something that gets to the point we're trying to get
Right.
to, which is
Compensation.
that the taxi driver will be getting the same information that an Uber driver would get about what they're going to earn by taking this ride.
So you could add in compensation offered by the TNC, I guess, or
I mean, it's,
by the authority.
I keep cutting you off.
Sorry.
So,
We don't.
I mean, when we installed the systems in the cabs, we had to show the TA, the display that the driver sees. So in theory, we could just take what's on that screen and put that into policy. I think, right?
Yeah. John Griffin again. Shitaxi's on. Maybe she can answer this. I don't, depending on the different agreements with different companies, I'm not sure we would technically break it down to exactly what the driver would make on every projected trip. You know, right now you get on the Uber app, you see it. It's like, yeah, your estimated trip's $34. I don't know, unless they were all
So-
uniform, how we did that.
So when a driver gets an offer, it's what they're getting paid. So
Okay.
it's doesn't really matter what it shows to you, but like because they're making a decision on what they're getting paid, so we want them to actually get that value.
Gotcha. Here.
Well, I kind of understand that from the few times I've taken Ubers where I've asked, he says, oh yeah, I know what I'm generally going to make for this ride.
Have a form thing for. I think if it's gonna be section 5 and then you do 1, then it should be A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Or don't do 1 and do 1, 2, and 3.
If you're going section 5, sub 1,
Yeah, so just
Yeah.
change it one way or another. If
I
you
get
want to leave the 1, change it to A, B, C.
And since you brought up section 5, sub 1, I don't understand it's a clunky sentence, sub 1. First sub 1.
Communicates to the driver?
No, a certificated carrier must use an electronic ride-hailing system of a transportation network company for which Taxicab has access that must be deployed using communications technology. That sentence is kind of out of the barn. I'm not sure what we mean there.
Do you want like a preamble?
No, I think,
So I
we need to
think
simplify that sentence to say what it means to say.
we'll break it into two concepts. They have to use
Yeah.
the ERH of the TNC. And second, that system has to be deployed using communication technology that has the following elements. Right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
stated loyally, it's a compound question,
Yeah,
compound concept.
So you could say a certificate of carrier must use an ERH of a TNC deployed using communications technology that you could take up.
Okay, bifurcate that. Anything else on? Section 6. Section. This is the reporting. Section 8.
Section 8, I have similar.
There's going to be lots of.
Well, I went very specific. I mean, I only searched for very specific things that have been relevant to
You.
myself or my client, yeah. But it's the same thing that around the where is it? It's section 8, line 4. For each agreement entered pursuant to section 3 of this regulation, a certificate holder shall file with the authority an accurate and complete copy of the available application information and corresponding rate information filed or used by a transportation network company with the NTA. So
I think it implausible, from my understanding, that the certificate holder can do this.
Well,
Agreed.
and applications could be confidential and now you're requiring them to be
Yeah.
sent to a separate agency.
I just think it's an impossibility.
Also, rate information we provided to the TAY. What would we do with it? Because we're not approving it because it's approved by the NTA. So why would the TA need a copy of something that was already provided and approved by the NTA?
We don't get their rate information. That's the simplest way to.
So I guess the question I have back to you, Member Decker, is how do we know, how have we discharged, and I get where your fun is maybe, how have we discharged our obligation to prove a rate if the rate that the sister agency has approved is not
Public.
available to us?
Well, this is the Pandora's box of this whole thing, because we either have to do it or we don't. But the idea that we're going to delegate it to the NTA, but we still want to look at it and decide is not realistic, because the TNC has no obligation to submit those rates, and they don't care if we approve them or not. So this is the whole thing about delegating our authority to set those rates to the NTA. We have to either trust that they're doing a good job of it and that it's sufficient for our purposes or not. But I kind of don't see that we have the authority to get in the middle of it and go, well, we'd like to see those rate filings to either one, decide or not decide, or two, decide whether the NTA did it right. And I don't really think we want to get into that.
I don't think they submit their rate filings. Oh, you do?
It's
And we modify them all the time. So, but now, and
It's not made public.
it's not made public.
It's
I
the
was-
rate with this agency.
Uber submitted some comment, John Griffin again. Uber had submitted some comments this morning on some of the confidentiality and everything. One of the suggestions, happy to work with everybody. One of the suggestions was if there was condensed information that you were required us to submit directly to you, that might be the easiest way rather than through middlemen and, and our concern is confidentiality and just the, like full insurance policy. But we're happy to work with you on what the submission would look like and what you need to see.
Well, I think you're being nice about it because we really don't have any authority to require them to do it. And if we were going to try to achieve that authority, I think a statute change would be really what we need to be looking at. I don't think we're going to accomplish that by adding this language into the regulation.
That's helpful, John. I think the only comment I have back to you is we could make a condition of approving the contract between the technology provider and the TNC that they agree to voluntarily submit the information required by XRED. Because we can condition,
We could, but
I'm not in total disagreement because we really don't have jurisdiction of, we only get jurisdiction of the technology provider because they are entering an agreement with a carrier.
Right, well, and Uber may send someone who's not as nice as John is, says, too bad, we're not giving it to you. We don't even like giving it to the NTA. We make them keep it under seal. And in a different environment where the administrator wasn't doing double duty at the NTA may say, TA, stay out of our Taxicab authority. You have no jurisdiction, stay out of this. Why are you making our licensees provide you with rate information that's, yeah.
And I must say, that's why I put the word available in there. Maybe it's just not available.
Well, let me ask the agency this. What are we going to do with that information?
That's what I wanted to ask.
Put it in a filing cabinet.
Well, then why?
I think it's just a checks and balances. I think it's an audit piece of information that we can look at to make sure that everything is what it says it is.
And if it isn't, then what? What are we doing with that?
I think that's going to be up to the agency to dig into it more.
which agency?
Under what statute or NAC are we going to be doing that?
I think what Member Decker's saying is we either have to have a leap of faith NTA or not, right?
Understood. I get that.
Well, and as I understand it too, it's a push or pull system. So we require certificate holders to charge a certain thing or a certain rate that we find to be appropriate. Whereas that's not going to be the case. They tell us what the rate is.
Yeah.
And then we use the rate that's being used. So that's what I think Member Decker is saying, is that there's two different types of system and systems being widely used in this conversation. So I don't want to confuse anybody, but I agree, you know, there's a question here as to, and like my understanding was is that Uber did not have to give their rates per se to the NTA, that they will tell them how they calculate them, but it's not the actual rates. So, and I'm not, and we're not, and what I think Member Decker's trying to say is, he's not trying to create a regulation that creates that obligation just because you entered into these contracts with our certificate holders. So willing suspension of disbelief kind of thing comes to mind, you know, is that, and that's what it is. Like when you were saying before, you have to trust. I mean, it is, it's a willing suspension of disbelief that that the rates that they're charging are beneficial to our clients, customers, the public, whoever.
Well, and I think this is the fundamental question that when this first came up a year or two ago.
Yeah.
If we sidestep this question, then we can't honestly present to the legislature, hey, the NTA is going to approve the rates and we would like authority to accept that approval. If we're saying we want separate authority to approve the rates, we need to say that. But if what we're saying is the NTA approves the rates, we trust that they're doing what's best for the marketplace, we'd like to then benefit from that rate approval and accept it as a delegated authority. I really, there's two questions. We're either asking for authority to approve rates or we're trusting the NTAs.
Or we make a finding that the public interest doesn't require us to do it in this case because of the following reasons, just like the Commissioner of Financial Institutions and the Gaming Commission adopt regulations that say we hereby find all of these reasons why we're not going to comply with the law. And And use our waiver or our exemption authority, right? They both have waiver and exemption authority. So they say in a reg, we're going to follow the law in this case, the law we wrote, because we're granting an exemption. So
Well,
we could make a public interest fund.
But that's the inverse of what we're trying to say, which is we are following the law by accepting the NTA's approval of the
That's
rates.
certainly the approach we initially took. Doesn't mean it's the approach we have to take.
Gotcha.
And Uber's will, you just get this today, we will support statutory changes on this. 'Cause
Yeah,
that
yeah.
obviously helps this situation, you know, and totally understand we're working on two different boxes here. These regulations, albeit temporary until there's
Right.
legislative changes. And at least in our offer today was if it's something you want us to voluntarily submit, you know, we can work through exactly what information you need. Happy to submit it. We want to see the success of pilot programs go. So even though you don't have any technical teeth, and like if we don't, what's the,
Yeah.
we're willing to. That's all I can say.
And no, I think that's fair, John. I think also fair that, that member Decker just wants to force us into making a public finding. Okay.
Well, it does address, I mean, listened earlier through on the EDC situation. It does, theoretically, that is a solution to addressing the pickup problem at EDC, not the drop off.
Right.
Is if you surge your way into it. And if the money's good enough, drivers are going to go out and pick people up.
And they may even take the risk that they're not gonna have somebody.
Yeah.
If it's gonna make them $200 for one ride. Okay. Other changes on 8?
That was all that I noted.
That's it. That's it. Any other comments? Yes,
I can go back to what Cheryl was saying about the employee that was on the,
employee driver, yeah.
450, NEC 76450 is the explanation that she's looking for. The driver is an employee.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it's already
I
there.
thought when we did the lease regulations, we created this
We did.
anomaly between the statute and the reg. Reg created a different set of categories than statute.
And you can see what 450 says in our, little 625 there. It's,
Anything else on this draft? Great. Last item is, we have, in our record, a small business impact statement. It has been prepared by the agency. It concludes entered on June 1st, 2026. There is no negative economic impact on small business, hindering its ability to operate, form, or expand under the proposed regulations. And we would be happy to take any comment on all business impact statement. If there's anybody present like to address it. Anybody appearing remotely that wants to address it? Okay. Then I will call the workshop to conclusion. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
We're gonna get you.
Yeah.
I just